Hey guys, jlvSWGOH back again with another 101 video, and today I'm going to be looking in depth at another character that I really like to use in this game, and that character is Darth Sion. Now, it's very well known that Darth Sion is a fantastic character in Arena, but I want to go into how good, and also look at his viability throughout the game in Arena, Raids, Territory Battles, Territory Wars, and as well look at his gear requirements, his modding, his stats, abilities, and talk a little bit about his Zeta. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. For those of you who do not know, Darth Sion is listed as an aggressive Sith tank that becomes stronger with hatred. What this means is that Darth Sion can gain a buff that is specific to him, known as hatred, and this buff in turn makes him a much more tanky character, which will help him do his job of a tank much better, and it also turns him sort of into an attacker where he does a lot more damage than he would normally do. Darth Sion also revolves around his own new debuff, which is called Pain. And Pain is just a neutral debuff that sits around. However, when a unit has Pain, they take extra damage when Darth Sion attacks them. And when the unit with Pain takes a turn, they are forced to attack Darth Sion because he taunts. This makes Sion a very annoying tank to deal with, and we'll see more about this in his kit. So let's jump right into his stats. So kicking it off with health, Darth Sion is not one of the most healthy characters in the entire game. His base health is 33,278 at 7 star, which is 34th of all characters. And with the new Gear 12 Plus, it actually raises it to 37,807. And as you can see here, I have the health values from his 2-star unlock until 6-star as well. So as a tank, since Darth Sion has high health, that's also very good, but another stat that tanks rely on extremely highly is protection, and Darth Sion comes in at 10th with 29,780 from 2-star to 6-star, and once he reaches Gear 12 and 7-star, it raises to a whopping 39,707. Darth Sion's basic damage is 7,958 to 8,794, and amazingly, as a tank, this is the 7th highest hitting basic in the entire game. This also means that Darth Sion is the hardest hitting tank on a basic in the entire game. He also has an AoE ability, which hits for 4,524 damage to 5,000 damage, and amazingly, again as he is a tank, this is the 10th hardest hitting AoE in the game. So since Darth Sion has high health, high protection, high basic damage, and high AoE, he is a little bit challenged with the speed. He has 137 base, raised to 149 with Gear 12 Plus, and he's tied with General Veers and Dothja. So now that we've gotten a little bit into his stats, I want to move into Darth Sion's abilities so we can better know and learn his kit and why he's so good. So let's start with his basic ability, which is called Dark Rage, and it reads, deal physical damage to target enemy and inflict pain for 3 turns. If the target already had pain, dispel all debuffs on Sion. And what pain means is that the unit that has pain takes bonus damage from Darth Sion, and that entails that whenever Sion attacks someone with pain, they take damage equal to 10% of their max health. So his basic is good because it does high damage, as we discussed just earlier, and it also inflicts the debuff of pain, which is used for his taunt, as we'll see later on within his unique ability. He can also dispel all debuffs on himself if the target he's attacking has pain, which is very good because you can get rid of things like buff immunity and shock that'll stop Sion from being a very disruptive taunter. So now we move into his first special, which is called Torment, and this reads, deal physical damage to all enemies and then dispel all buffs on them. Then inflict pain on all enemies for 3 turns. Then reduce the cooldown of this ability by 1 for each enemy without pain. This attack can't be evaded. So there's a lot going on in this ability, so let's break it down real quick. First off, he does physical damage, which, as we saw earlier, the AoE damage on this move is 10th in the game, so it's already doing high amounts of damage. It dispels all buffs on all characters. A mass buff dispel is an insanely powerful tool in this game. And going to the end of the ability, it says this attack can't be evaded, so they cannot evade the dispel of all the buffs, so they automatically lose all the buffs. However, it does say deal physical damage to all enemies and then dispel all buffs on them, meaning that if the entire team had Retribution and you use this ability, they will counter because he did the damage before he dispelled all the buffs. He also inflicts pain on all enemies for 3 turns, meaning that now all of the enemies that got pain inflicted on them have to attack Darth Sion when it's their turn. And also, this ability reduces the cooldown of itself by 1 for each enemy that didn't have pain. So let's now move into his second special, which is called Break Will. And this reads, deal physical damage and inflict pain on target enemy for 3 turns. This attack can't be evaded. If the target already had pain, this attack deals 100% more damage and Sion recovers 35% protection. This move is incredibly good for Sion. Even though the first part of it reads exactly like the basic, deal physical damage and inflict pain on target enemy for 3 turns, it hits much harder than the basic itself. And if you land it on someone who already has pain, you get 100% more damage, and Sion gets protection recovery, which is great for him because he has high defense, so he's not losing too much protection, but if you're running low on protection, you can get some of it back at least. And you don't have to worry about an evade on this high damage attack, which you can see can do somewhere between 40 to 50,000 damage, and not being able to evade it means that it'll hit every time, even if they have foresight, so you don't have to worry about losing out on that damage. Lastly, we have Sion's third special, which is Held by Hatred. Sion dispels all debuffs on himself, recovers 100% health, and gains 100% turn meter. Sion gains Hatred until he is defeated, which can't be dispelled or prevented. This ability starts on cooldown. When Sion inflicts pain, reduce the cooldown of this ability by 1. So with this ability, you get a 100% health regain and 100% turn meter gain. But the main point of this move is that you gain the Hatred buff, which gives Sion plus 25% critical chance, plus 100% defense, plus 100% offense. And whenever he's defeated, he'll revive at 100% health and have 100% turn meter to work with. So this is like Sion's super move. As we've seen with the Sith Triumvirate, they all have one super move, as I would call it. Nihilus's being Annihilate, Sion's being Held by Hatred, and Traya's probably being the Storm of Sabers. And like all the Triumvirate super moves, it starts on cooldown, but however, he can reduce the cooldown by just inflicting pain. So this can be off of his AoE, which he can get 5 pain, is 5 cooldown reduction. On his basic, he can inflict pain, and on his special, he can inflict pain. So he's always inflicting pain. And as we'll see in his unique, he also inflicts pain, which allows him to get off this super move much faster. So moving into Darth Sion's unique ability, which is called the Lord of Pain, and it has a Zeta. And it reads, Sion has plus 100% defense and plus 100% tenacity against enemies with pain. At the start of each enemy's turn, if they have pain, Sion gains taunt until the end of the turn. And here's the Zeta right here. At the end of each turn, Sion inflicts pain for 3 turns on enemies who damaged him that turn. When allied Darth Traya or Darth Nihilus are critically hit, reduce Held by Hatred's cooldown by 1. So without the Zeta, this ability is already very solid. 100% defense and 100% tenacity means that he's taking a lot of reduced damage against people with pain and can almost not possibly get debuffed by them. And whenever Darth Traya or Darth Nihilus get critically hit, he reduces his super moves cooldown by 1, which is going to happen very often. However, if you throw the Zeta on this ability, Sion becomes an almost unstoppable force. He inflicts pain on anyone who damaged him that turn, so that means that if someone had pain, they are forced to attack Darth Sion. They attack Darth Sion, then they get their pain reinflicted, and that reduces the cooldown of Held by Hatred by 1. So if your whole team has to attack Sion, that reduces Held by Hatred by 5 if he lands the pain the second time. Which also means that earlier, if he inflicted pain on your whole team by using his mass AoE, he already reduced his cooldown by 5. When your whole team attacked him, he reduced it by 5 again. And let's say that you critically hit his allied Darth Traya or Darth Nihilus 5 times, he already has Held by Hatred by his 3rd turn. I would also be remiss if I did not mention how Darth Sion works with all the other 2 Triumvirate, Darth Traya and Darth Nihilus. For Darth Nihilus, whenever Darth Sion gets debuffed, Darth Nihilus gains 10% turn meter and plus 30% max health stacking until the end of the encounter, which is insane. And for Darth Traya, whenever Darth Sion is critically hit or inflicted with a debuff, Traya gains plus 12% offense stacking for 2 turns. To put this in perspective, if Darth Nihilus and Darth Sion are critically hit or debuffed 10 times within 2 of Traya's turns, she'll gain plus 120% offense. I also wanted to say that I think that Darth Sion Zeta is necessary for Arena if you're going to run him in the high-end parts of Arena. This is due to the fact that it gives him Held by Hatred like 3 times faster than he normally would, and if he doesn't have the Zeta, usually he doesn't inflict enough pain in time to get Held by Hatred before he's dead. But from my experience, that was only him at 4-star. If you have him at 7-star gear 12 and you don't have the Zeta, he might work better, but he's still not going to work as well if you don't have the Zeta. So as we can see from his kit, Darth Sion is an extremely annoying tank, but can also be an extremely large offensive threat. So now that we've covered Darth Sion's kit, let's move right into his gear requirements. So Darth Sion is pretty heavy on gear, especially those pesky Carbantes. So he needs a total of 1,680 pieces of purple gear, and this is pre-Gear 12 Plus. It only increases just a little bit for Gear 12 Plus. So he needs 350 Carbantes, plus 50 more that come with the Gear 12 Plus pieces, 200 stun cuffs, 150 stun guns, 100 Mach 4 back-to-gels, 100 Mach 9 electro binoculars, and 50 Mark 6 detonators, which are those detonators that add 6 speed. Darth Sion also requires 310 pieces of gold gear. This is before the Gear 12 requirement, Gear 12 Plus requirements, so just the Gear 12 requirements. And he needs 2 Mach 8 implants, the eyeball-looking things, which is 100 of those salvage, plus 120 more of the prototypes. For Rancor gear, Darth Sion requires 2 droid collars, and for Gear 12 pieces, he'll be using a multi-tool, an armor plating, and a visor. Now you may be wondering, well, this character seems very good, where can I farm him? Well, I'll let you know right now. So Darth Sion can be found in shipments. You can buy 4 of his shards for 320 crystals, 8 of his shards for 640 crystals, or 16 of his shards for 1,280 crystals. He's also found in Lightside Hard Battle 9A for 20 energy, and Fleet Hard Battle 4D for 20 energy. So now let's jump into where most people focus a lot of their time in this game, and that is Arena. How good is Darth Sion in Arena? So as of right now, the main meta is Sith, Palpatine lead and Traya lead, with a few Rex leads, kind of floating around there. So I'm going to cover those 3, how he is under Palp lead, how he is under Traya lead, and how he is under Rex lead. So under an Emperor Palpatine lead, Sion will be gaining 35% potency and 35% max health, and he'll also be gaining 5% turn meter whenever a debuff on an enemy expires. So if you're facing teams that have people like Traya or Rex, there's going to be a lot of cleansing happening, which means that Sion will be gaining a lot of turn meter for him to get his Held by Hatred together faster. He also, when he inflicts a debuff, he'll be recovering 20% of his max health. So when he uses his mass AoE and inflicts pain 5 times, he'll be gaining 100% health back. And on his basic, he'll gain 20% health if he hits and lands pain on the enemy. All in all, the Emperor is a great lead for Sion because he gives him more health as a tank, higher potency to inflict his debuff, which is pain, which causes him to taunt. He also, because of the higher potency, can gain health back pretty easily because of the inflicting pain. And he'll also be going a lot faster because whenever a debuff on an enemy expires, he gains 5% turn meter. So moving into the Darth Traya lead, under Darth Traya, Sion gains plus 40% critical avoidance and plus 40% potency, and he also recovers 10% health whenever a debuffed enemy takes damage. So first off, 40% critical avoidance in my book is almost like critical hit immunity. Not many characters have critical chances, say over 50%. Even if you add a baseline 50%, it's still a 10% critical chance, which is so low. and a lot of characters usually sit around 45 to 42%, I would say. So having a plus 40% critical avoidance means that your critical hit chance is only about 2 to 5%, which is incredibly low. This is great for Sion because he has a very high defense, so if you're not hitting crits on him, all the hits that are hitting him are going to be like poking him with a needle. It's going to be nothing to him. Plus, the 40% potency that he gains means he can inflict pain more often, meaning that he can reduce the cooldown of his Held by Hatred more. And you're also going to have a lot of debuffs going around, which also means that whenever someone on the other team with a debuff takes damage, automatically the Sith allies that are on your team, which including Sion, will recover 10% of their max health. So the last lead I want to cover is Captain Rex. And Captain Rex is a very good leader all around. He provides a lot of speed for characters because of turn meter gain. However, I think running Sion with someone like Emperor Palpatine works better for him because there's going to be more debuffs being inflicted and he's going to be moving faster than he probably would be under a Rex lead, because Rex leads are focused on just landing critical hits on the other team. So if you're not getting critically hit very often, you're not gaining as much turn meter as you normally would. But the Sith, are always going to be inflicting debuffs, so you're always going to have a source of turn meter under an Emperor Palpatine lead as compared to a Rex lead. But Sion does work under Rex lead, just not as well as he would with a Sith, because Captain Rex is just one of the universal leaders of this game. So real quick, I'd just like to throw in some ideas for how to mod Darth Sion, since we just talked about Arena. So Darth Sion should be fairly fast for a tank, and he should be focused on high protection because he has a very high protection base, so raising it even higher is not very hard. So I have him modded for 23.5% protection on all the mods that are available. So the circle, the plus, the triangle, and not the arrow. The arrow I have 30 speed on so that he can be faster, and I run a speed set and a potency set so that I can make sure that I have more debuffs inflicting, even though he already gains a lot of potency from Palpatine lead and Traya lead. So now that we've covered Arena, I want to talk about Darth Sion in territory battles because I really love using him in this mode. Sion is an absolute monster in territory battles for a few reasons. Initially, he has protection recovery off of his Break Will ability, which means that he's able to stay alive throughout all the phases of the dark side territory battle. He also provides high damage to take out targets faster, like important targets like elites. He has Taunt to defend the weaker characters of your team, and he also has a Revive ability that he can get off fairly often because he's always going to be debuffing, and whenever the enemy team is attacking him, he'll be able to inflict pain on them and then lower the Held by Hatred cooldown. I'd also now real quick like to mention Territory Wars. So he is just as annoying on defense as he would be if you saw him in Arena. He is helpful on the same teams like Traya, Rex, and Palpatine. However, I'd avoid using Rex teams with Sion in Territory Wars because he's much better utilized somewhere else, and Rex can function with other characters better than he could function with Sion. For raids, Darth Sion is pretty underwhelming in raids. In the Sith Triumvirate raid, the high tenacity on bosses means that he can't taunt and he can't reach Held by Hatred fast, and he's pretty much just there doing mediocre damage when you could just throw in a high damage attacker instead. In the tank raid, I'd say if you have him, he's actually a pretty decent tool to use in the raid. However, he's not fantastic and he can't be used on any solo teams. But in phase 2 here, I was able to get a decent amount of damage, somewhere around 3 million. And he was definitely a big part of that. He was dishing out large amounts of damage. He was taunting, protecting the rest of my team. And all in all, he just seems like a pretty solid tank character. But he's not like top tier like Wampa and Vader and Thrawn. But he is very, very solid in that raid. For Rancor, I'd also say not use him. There's better characters to use. You can have Han Solo and Luke Skywalker solo the whole raid. So having Darth Sion for the Rancor is not very good. And that raid is also kind of outdated now. So pretty much anyone can be thrown in there and do decent damage. But he doesn't have turn meter removal, which is useful for that raid. And he only provides the taunt and high damage. So guys, that'll about wrap it up for this 101 video on Darth Sion. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you maybe learned something that you didn't know about Darth Sion. And I hope all you who don't have Darth Sion farmed up that you get on him right away, because he's insanely good, as we've seen. And for anyone worried that maybe he'll fall out of favor when the Sith meta maybe eventually ends, I don't think so. I think he'll always be strong in territory wars, and territory battles he'll always be useful. And he's just overall a really fun character to use with his, high damage dish out. That's always so much fun to see when he hits like up to 50k and stuff like that. So anyway guys, hope you enjoyed. Sorry this video was so long, and I'll catch you in the next one.